In the work that I'm doing, it is social cohesion, it is empathy, but more importantly, it is what we must do as America to engage with a quarter of our planet so that we are working on things together. It has been a delight to get to know this next generation. These are young people who are leveraging incredible ideas with innovation, with passion, with energy. They've asked us to think about themselves in new ways. They've asked us to push back against the stereotypes and the sound bites that we see on TV and in the media. They've asked us to listen to what it is they have to say. We're turning on our TV and seeing what's happening in Northern Africa, and we see that in real time when something happens in Tunisia, and it ricochets all across the Middle East. This youthquake is also taking place in Malaysia, and in Mali, and in Brazil. It's taking place in every corner of Europe. Muslims and non-Muslims who are amplifying an idea that they matter. And what we are trying to do is to execute new initiatives that allow us to take what it is that they think are important. Don't stereotype us, amplify our ideas, connect our vision, and we're trying to connect that with really great people. Now, this concept of these young people has been very prevalent to me, and the initiatives that we're working on are quite diverse, whether it is media training, because a lot of them are very interested in being more articulate about who they are and what they're doing, or it's building networks of generation changers around the world, or change makers that want to get to know each other, or it's young people who have said to me, can we do more to stop stereotyping Muslims that are around concepts of terrorism and other things that you guys are very well aware of? Now, it's very interesting. I've given you what the Secretary of State has asked me to do for my job. I have a very specific mandate. I have a colleague of mine named Hannah Rosenthal, who is the envoy to combat and monitor anti-Semitism. Her job is congressionally mandated, and she has a very particular mandate to go out around the world to report back to Congress on how rates of anti-Semitism have gone up or gone down, or what's taking place around the world. I met Hannah in a very interesting way. Right after the Times Square foiled plot, I got a call from Hannah's office, and I had never met her before. And her secretary called my office and said, Ms. Rosenthal would like to come upstairs and see you right now. It's really, really urgent. I had never met her before. And I said, of course, come on up. She came down, sat down on my couch, and she said, Farah, listen, I am watching the news. I'm seeing what happened in Times Square. I'm hearing about how the media is portraying this incident. And I want to do something to be helpful because the messenger matters. They will expect you to say something because you are the special representative to Muslim communities. But you said, I am the envoy to combat and monitor anti-Semitism, and I want to say something about this issue as a Jew, as somebody who is able to speak with a different voice. That was a really important lesson. It was an incredibly powerful thing to think about the coalition building that both of you have talked about, and the voices that matter in how you do things. Now, Hannah, I connected to some American Muslim groups, and it was really great, but I met her again in Kazakhstan, when both of us were part of a delegation that was going to the United States, as part of the US delegation, to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the OSCE, that did a conference in Kazakhstan on tolerance. And we, as part of the American delegation, were supposed to speak on various issues. I was supposed to speak on what they called Islamophobia. Hannah was supposed to speak on anti-Semitism. And in June of 2010, we decided to do something pretty radical for US government officials. We decided to switch roles. So at the formal proceedings, when they called on the United States and the flags are, over there, and it says U.S. Department of, the whole thing is all set up, and they said, we're going to talk about Islamophobia, Hannah Rosenthal came to the front, and she said, my name is Hannah Rosenthal, I'm a special envoy to combat and monitor anti-Semitism, and I'm going to speak about anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. I did the same thing when they talked about anti-Semitism. People freaked out. We ended with the same paragraph, hate is hate, no matter who the victim is. People were really surprised. So we were very powerful thing to do on behalf of the United States, but more importantly, it generated a lot of conversation by civil society. who came back to us and said, there's certainly more you can do than just, this is amazing that the US government put this out there, but what more can you do? And we thought about that, and we thought about the messages we've been hearing. I have been hearing from young people around the world that said, we do not want to live with the legacies of our parents. I remember very specifically being in Sarajevo and talking to young Muslims and Christians in a cafe in Sarajevo, and them saying to me, we can't get past the past. Our parents won't let us have coffee with somebody who is not of our faith. We don't want to live like this. This is not the world that we want to live in. I can talk about stories that I've heard in other parts of the world that are very similar. And when I heard from civil society, when Hannah heard from civil society that, listen, you both can do more. You said this and did this at the OSCE. What more can you do? We took that home and we decided to do something very exciting this year. And in February of this year, we went back to the OSCE and we announced in Vienna a brand new campaign that we were launching. This really wasn't our mandate, but we decided to do it anyway. We launched a campaign called 2011, like the year, Hours Against Hate. It's a Facebook campaign for young kids under the age of 30. Certainly people over 30 have been joining the campaign, but because it's the Facebook generation, we pushed it out in a viral way. And we asked people to volunteer their time to do something for someone who doesn't look like you, pray like you, or live like you. So this goes across racial lines and religious lines and gender lines and sexual lines and everything else in the world. And we thought, we hoped we'd get 2011 hours pledged this year. We thought 2011 hours, that's a lot of time. We, so far, have gotten more than 15,000 hours worldwide. And the campaign is not our campaign, we didn't realize it. These are young people who've taken it on. I got an email for some folks in Lebanon who had donated 520 hours of time. Maronites going to homes of Muslims, Muslims going to homes of Jews, doing things for the other, going into community centers, going into health clinics, going into hospitals, going into schools, walking in the shoes of the other. I mention this campaign because it is one of many things that you can do to help execute a vision that I know you all believe in. It is so important that we do as much as we can to amplify the sentiment that I hear from civil society around the world. So the campaign is your campaign, it's not our campaign, it's our campaign in the world. But the kinds of things that we hear young people say is that they want organizing vessels to be able to do work. Some of you have organizing vessels, and some of you have organizing vessels. Share your stories. Tell us where we can do things. If you're interested in this campaign or other things, go online and help us do things. If you know of NGOs in America that want to do more with NGOs in other parts of the world, tell me, ask me so I can connect you. I often connect American NGOs with NGOs in other parts of the world because being that connector is a very easy thing to do. We don't have to tell somebody what their agenda is. We can simply say, you're doing amazing stuff, you need to meet these people in Oslo, or you need to meet these people in Morocco, or you need to meet these people in Jakarta. The collaboration of young minds, of ideas, of NGOs, of business people will make the difference. The cohesion of the spirit to push forward mutual respect relies on every one of us, government and non-government, to get the work done. It has been a true pleasure to be able to go around the world on behalf of the United States and talk to young people around the world. I have been to 50 countries in the last 23 months. I've talked to thousands and thousands and thousands of young Muslims. And while there are so many diverse stories, there is one theme that is absolutely consistent that I can tell you because it is very present to me as I think about this generation. Whether I'm talking to somebody in Mauritania, or I'm talking in the Sahara Desert, or in the Pamir Mountains, whether it is rural or it is a city, whether somebody is really well educated or not educated at all, there's one thing that's happening to this generation, and that's a crisis in identity. And I hear it from young kids all around the world. What does it mean to be modern and Muslim? What's the difference between culture and religion? With a generation that has grown up every single day since September 12th, 2001, with the word Islam or Muslims on the front page of a paper, and has reshaped and recalibrated the way this generation is thinking about themselves. And what we have to do is to debunk the narratives that say that they don't belong. We must debunk the narratives that say that there's an us and a them. We must do as much as we can to help this generation move forward, because most Muslims in the world have grown up in this generation, and they are going to be and are the leaders going forward. These are not things that we should be dealing with 15 and 20 years from now. These are things that we can and have the capacity with 21st century statecraft to be able to move forward. Their narratives, their ideas need to be present to us, not narratives of those who say they will never belong. I'm looking forward to the question and answer, because I think that we'll get into some of the details of what I've seen. But I wanted to focus very specifically on the issue of identity, because I think it's something, a lot of you were nodding when I was talking about that. I think it's something that you have all seen, I know certainly in our country, but that I've seen echoed around the world. And I also want to say to you that for those of you who are on Facebook and are on Twitter, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter, and I want to hear your ideas. I want to hear from you. I want to know what we're doing well and what we can do better. I want to know if there's a project that you want to share with others around the world. I am trying to do as much as we can to be that facilitator, and I think that the greatest strength of the United States government can actually be that connector around the world. It has been a great pleasure to have a chance to come and talk to you all tonight. I hope you're going to ask some really great and hard questions, and we'll get some good answers. So with that, let me pause and let you take back the microphone.
So I wanted to make note that while Farah was speaking, I was taking my notes on my smartphone. I am not yet 30. No. Somebody clapping for that? But some of the notes that I wanted to go through, some of the poignant points, in going on the website about the 15 hours against hate, I was really impressed. It says specifically, to do something for someone, who doesn't look like you, here it says, pray like you, or live like you. We're asking the next generation to work together to build a stronger, more prosperous world. No one group can do it alone, and I think that's the most important connector of all of it. No one group can do it alone. So thank you for that. And again, you made mention again and again about the importance of the collaboration of young minds and, in looking for mutual respect. And I think through the age of the internet, we're finding much more ways to connect, finding much more ways to collaborate. And there is definitely much hope in that.